Hello everyone and welcome back to DMG. Not long ago at all, I looked at the International Datacasting DVB-S2 TV receiver, a really odd satellite receiver with a computer motherboard inside of it, and, it was a bizarre blend of custom FPGA hardware and off-the-shelf PC hardware to facilitate its recording functions as well as its receiving functions. And, well, what did I do? I went out and I bought another one because I was really, really curious what this company's hardware was like. From what I can tell, International Datacasting was kind of alone in this field of putting a PC inside of a satellite receiver. So as a result, these machines are really unique. I can't find anything else that has the same functionality and the same kind of cursed blend of hardware. So what I've gone out and bought this time is the SFX 2100, an older, smaller, yet heavier, and also much flimsier receiver from International Datacasting. This one hails from around 2004, while the one we looked at last video was from closer to 2007. So I have played around with this a little bit, and although the FPGA circuitry on the inside is not quite as interesting, the PC side is actually a little more interesting than the DVB-S. So we're going to crack it open right now, take a look at it, and I'll walk you through. If you haven't seen the first video, I recommend you watch it, just to give a little background info, but you don't have to. I will summarize some things in this video. But of course, as always, we're going to start with the ports. Of course, these are some older ports. You don't have like FireWire optical audio like you did on the last one. There's the power supply, 2 serial ports, although they serve different functions. One of these is RS-232. One of these is connected to a different COM port on the motherboard, and it doesn't work as a serial port, so this is for some receiver-specific function. PS2 ports, parallel, VGA, just like last time, 4 USB, 2 10100 Ethernet, TV output, left and right audio, and then, just two tiny little ports for the receiver. So one of those big wide ports and the coax for the antenna. There's also a big unfilled expansion slot, and I'll talk about that when we crack it open, which we will do right now. Once again, it's a blend of FPGA cards for the TV receiver side, and just a ITX PC motherboard on the computer side. This motherboard, I was expecting an Athlon XP Mobile, just because that seems like a pretty solid choice for performance to efficiency ratio for 2004 in a 1-unit chassis that maybe doesn't have quite the best air intake and ventilation. But they actually stuck with Intel, and instead of going for the ridiculous, stupid, hot Pentium 4s of the era, this packs a Pentium 3 Celeron. It is a 1 gigahertz, it's called the Celeron 1000. It's a Coppermine Celeron, and, well, I mean, that's sufficient performance for a system such as this. Just like the last unit, it has a power supply made by Sparkle. Rest in peace, they made really great graphics cards, and some really rusty RAM. I assume it was never designed to be this crusty, but it has 256 megs of PC-133 SD RAM. This motherboard operates on a VIA North and South bridge, and therefore it is the most finicky bastard of a motherboard I have ever used. This board is awful. Absolutely horrendous. However, it serves its purpose in a TV receiver. It does exactly what it needs to in this receiver. It just can't be pushed much further. But this is weird. It has a serial port like an external serial port, like you'd see on the outside of a computer, right on the motherboard next to the power header, which is a bit weird. But ports and I/O wise, of course, this predates many of the interfaces seen on the 2008 model. It has the same dinky little heatsink and fan, but other than that, the motherboard is pretty much completely different. The FPGA card still connects over IDE. The IDE port that this card is using is the only desktop IDE port on the entire motherboard. And that amusingly leaves the system's hard drive to be connected over this flimsy little header and 44-pin laptop IDE over this adapter cable, which I find so funny that the desktop hard drive IDE was given to this card instead of the hard drive that it was literally designed for, and that was literally designed for it. So I mentioned those two unfilled expansion slots earlier. This horizontal one, the tall one, is for an MPEG decoder card, because this was intended to be used as a media server, and that was in the data sheet. This was available with an MPEG decoder card because the Celeron is not powerful enough to decode MPEG-2 video in real time as it's being streamed, presumably from satellite. So you could have gotten an MPEG decoder with this unit. There's also another expansion card directly on the TV card, and I believe that is for an expansion for the TV card that adds a couple more receiver ports. Of course, hard drive is a WD-1200, a classic Caviar eIDE drive, one of WD's old black tops. Of course, it still runs great. These are unkillable, and this system actually properly boots into its operating system, so we can actually see what it would have been like when this system was new and actually functioning, unlike the last one, which didn't boot into Linux fully. Now this is funny. Those two audio ports aren't on the motherboard, they are on this little daughter card, which is connected to the front panel audio header of the motherboard. Because the parallel port takes up so much space, they didn't have room to put headphone jacks on the motherboard. So the only audio outs on the system are these two RCA jacks connected to the front panel audio header. I find that very cute, absolutely adorable. And what isn't absolutely adorable is the sound of these 20-year-old fans. So just like last time... Oh boy. This one is not coming easy. Just like last time, I'm gonna unplug those for a bit. Pentium 3, as well as Core 2 Duo, can handle being unfanned for like 10 minutes. It'll be fine. But your ears won't if you are subjected to that noise. Before we power it on, I want to take a closer look at this FPGA card. Just like the last, it has a smart card reader on the bottom for authentication of the channels. It's under on this side, and it's powered by an Altera FPGA, the asexual FPGA, evidently. Has 8 megs of its own memory, communicates over the IDE interface, and I actually plugged a CD drive into here and the board read it. So again, it is not exploiting the IDE interface and sending commands over a different protocol. This card is actually communicated with via IDE, which is just really, really bizarre. So it communicates with the board's drive controller, and then its signals are interpreted by a driver that the operating system runs. And speaking of operating system, we've got some booting to do. Alright, well here we go. Tinnitus warning. I'm gonna have to give a tinnitus warning although I unplugged all the other fans, the power supply is irritating, and there's no way to turn off the fans in the power supply for a very good reason. Amusingly, the power supply says noise killer on it, but, well, it's not all that silent. Well, there we go. Celeron 1 gigahertz, 100 megahertz, 10 times multiplier. What did I not do right? Hard drive is spinning. It's on. Yeah. Yeah. What's going on here? Yeah. Hard drive Z. Come on. And there it is, uncompressing Linux, and it says up there loading SFX 2100, which is of course the model number of the receiver. And oh, from where the microphone's placed, you get to hear some nice WD caviar noises. And I'll back the camera out a little bit so you can see my thighs. So you can see the lights on the front as they start to come on. And is that connected properly? Typically they're already on by now, but we'll just give it some time. Now the last one ran Fedora Linux. This one runs, I believe, Red Hat. It takes quite a while to boot compared to the last one. I got a little scared when it was on a black screen for a while, the first time I powered this on, but it just takes a long time. Yep, here we go. Enlightenment starting is what it says when it's booting, which is hilarious. I don't know why none of these lights are on. They should be on by now, but clearly it's a problem with the indicator lights not working, not with the hardware that they're connected to not working. So we boot to this neat GUI, and it's going to load a browser page shortly. Just give it some time, because this is not a fast machine. It takes a long time to boot. There we go. So there's its IP address, 127.0.0.1. That's its local IP address for accessing the receiver from the receiver. PRSS, Public Radio Satellite System, copyright 2005, NPR. And here is the configuration menu. So it's all done through a web browser. This is all programmed through a web browser, whether from a remote machine or from the receiver itself. Now this is Netscape Navigator, actually, post Mozilla acquisition. So if we go to Alt F. USB mouse doesn't work in this operating system, and I don't have a PS2 mouse. So, yeah, we can do IRC chat. So this is before it was Firefox. This is after it was Netscape Navigator. So this is the very, very early days of what would eventually become Firefox, which is pretty neat. But new window, and whenever you open a new window or tab, it automatically goes to this this site, this configuration board. I tried to go to the access files stored on the SFX, but unfortunately you can't. So I will go to the receiver setup, and I don't have the username and password. And now I've managed to freeze the machine. Oh, there we go. Alt tab works. So yeah, without the password, unfortunately, I can do almost nothing with this system. There's no way to reset it. I've looked through. I contacted the person I bought this from, and they said that they got it at an estate sale, so they didn't know the password either. But I would really, really love to poke further, but unfortunately I can't. It is a bit neat to see, first of all, this old version of Mozilla and really just how this machine would have functioned, how you would have put files on it, and, you know, accessed those remotely over the network and configured plugins for it, like plugins for the MPEG decoder card, all of that stuff. So that's where I'm going to wrap it up for this annoying fan. So thank you everyone so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't seen the video on the previous Superflex receiver, I do recommend watching it because it would provide some additional info on some of the stuff I'm talking about here. And before we go, I just want to point out that the silly little fella made out of like PCB diagram symbols is on this board as well. He's above the Molex connector on this revision. But thank you everyone so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and if you did, I hope you'll come back next time. I cover a lot of weird stuff on this channel, so if you're interested, you might want to check out my other stuff. But thanks for watching.